So I see Laurent Slimani, which is an elected at the city of Rouen. So she's ecologist.
Okay.
I think.
So
He's
Hi.
great. Hi.
yeah.
Hi.
So welcome everyone to the first meeting of Citizens for Chemtool Accountability here in Rockton, Illinois, with the citizens of Rouen, France. I'm trying to work on saying that right.
You do good.
Have experienced another industrial fire caused by Lubrizol back on September 26th of 2019. I am just going to go ahead and introduce Pierre-Emmanuel Brunet. He has several different speakers lined up, and he can introduce them. I just want to make sure everybody's aware you are muted upon entry. If you will please stay muted when you're not speaking, we would very much appreciate it. We do have information that I have shared in the chat window. Feel free to share any information in the chat window with other folks. At the very top of the chat, there is a Google Doc that kind of summarizes the events of our fire that you might find interesting. There's also links to several YouTube videos that Rouen Respire has shared with us. And so you all know, this is, hopefully if I did it right, being broadcast on Facebook Live. It is being recorded here on Zoom. And so if you can, please share the Facebook Live. If you can share that link on Twitter, that would be fabulous too. We do want folks knowing about what's going on and our joint efforts. And I just want to say one thing that was raised at a meeting last night that I had not thought of, and that is how one event how one group helps the other in terms of really holding Chemtool and Lubrizol accountable. Because the fact that we are all here means that there's systemic problems in this company when it comes to preventing industrial fires. So without further ado, Pierre-Emmanuel Brunet is the president of Rouen Respire. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Oh, hi everyone from Rouen to all the people of Rockton. I don't see if all our guests are here. I'm looking for, I see Robin. I'm looking for Michel. I don't know if
that person is being admitted now, joining now.
Oh, okay. So I see Gerald Le Corre, who is an unionist. Laura Slimani will speak for the city of Rouen. I don't know if Maria Tino will join us, but I'm looking to see if Michel Chadelaud is here. Oh, Michel Chadelaud is here. Okay. So I think we have 16 people. We wait a little bit, or we go ahead?
I think we should probably go ahead, just because we have a lot to cover, and
okay.
And I just don't want to run out of time. I don't know how much translation would play into it. Our translator here is Dr. Chantal Giroux, and she's happy to translate whenever is needed.
Okay, so I will take a few words to explain the situation in Rouen. When the event occurred the 26th September, the people of Rouen did organize themselves around a few organizations. Rouen Respire is one of them, but you have also the association ASL. You have also the Union of Victims of Lubrizol, and you have also a collective that match all those organizations that called the Collectif de Lubrizol. But you have also a little organization about specific people, such as the women who were pregnant, who did organize themselves because they were very shocked by the event and very concerned about their milk, about their breast, about their health, and of course of their children. Okay, so the 26th September, what happens? It is a few years ago, I think it in 2030, we had already, and you did mention it, maybe, an accident about gas called the Mercaptan that did bother a large area of France to Paris, which is 100 kilometers from Rouen, but also in England and Belgium. We have been annoyed during a few days, maybe a couple, maybe 10 days area of that odor. Then after that, they did communicate that it was just a little mistake, that is not going to happen again, of course. And then on that night, the 26th September, at 2 o'clock in the morning, um, the accident took place. For now, what we can say is that they have a few inch to know the departure of that accident. Maybe it's a problem of a light. Maybe it's a manipulation with the stocks that did create that accident. We're not quite sure. We know, we're almost quite sure that it happens in Lubrizol site, and because there was a warehouse just along that site called Normandy Logistique. So the site was open because the people were working always together. So on that night, the accident happens. The people of Lubrizol did not see the accident. It's people around the site that did prevent the firefighters and the police. Okay. As a citizen, I live just across the river of Seine. It's a few hundred yards, like 800 yards from the Lubrizol factory. And we have not be alert at 2 o'clock in the morning. It's at 7 o'clock that I did receive a message from a friend that told me, be aware, there have been an accident. Look outside your window, you will see, and there will be no school today. So that's all we have for my information. And from that, we went on TV, on radio to seek for the news. But that is not something that we did accept. It is not to be prevented, not to be alerted by such a massive accident. When I went outside my house, it's a flat, but it is at the top of the building, so I see everything. And up above my head, I had a plume, a large plume, and a lot of debris, small debris, was in the air coming into my garden. I have a large terrace, about 40 square meters. So I seen that. So I was very concerned, and this situation was going on. So we didn't know if it's going to be more difficult, or because there are a lot of different dangerous sites around that Lubrizol factory. We have maybe like 30 sites, very dangerous, that if it goes explode together, it could be very massive catastrophe. So from that, we decided after a while to escape from our building. So we watched for the road and we went out to seek fresh air and not to stay in our building. Maybe it was not the things to do, but for us, I have a little kids. At this time, he was 4 years old. I didn't want to take a risk for him, and I also did alert all my neighbors to do the same, especially the pregnant women. I had 4 pregnant women in our building, which is 44 apartments. Okay, so that's it for the start, and then we try to organize to seek for information like you did. In fact, what we should say is what you did live in Rockton. It's exactly the same, exactly the same. You send me a little text, a poem about the situation. It is exactly the same feeling. It's very amazing, and it is the same company. And to tell you that is that Lubrizol did say at this time that it was not possible to have such an accident. Maybe one in 10,000 years. Okay, let me laugh. It is in 4 years' time, we have 2 major accidents. Okay, so and always the same problem. The sprinkler water doesn't work. You know, so that's for us. So we were seeking about our national organization, DREAL, ATMO, who are in charge of inspecting such a factory site, but also of the quality of the air. But we were in lack of information, lack of transparency. It was a lot of opacity about the data. So we didn't know what we were breathing. We didn't know what was in the air. So we were, let alone, nothing to avoid the doubt of risking our health. That was the kind of feeling we did have. So we did decide to organize between small organization. We are all volunteers. It means we are not professional. And around us, doctors, scientists, specialists did come in our organization to help us to build, a strategy. So that's for me. Now let Michel Chadelaud, and after that, Gerald Le Corre and Laura Slimani speaks for our city of Rouen to give their point of view about what we believe at this time. Thank you, Elizabeth. I don't know if you see Michel Chadelaud. Michel, si tu peux activer ton haut-parleur, tu passeras la parole après à Gérald Le Corre ou à Laura Slimani, à ton choix. Merci, Michel.
Hello, everybody. First of all, I must apologize for my English, that is very, very bad. If I don't succeed to get understood, I shall ask you to translate from French to English, and that's all. First of all, what would you wish me to speak to you about? I am occupational health doctor, now retired from 5 years. I worked more than 30 years in factories using chemical products. So I know this subject, not too bad. And in all times, I was a researcher in pharmacology laboratory in the University of Rouen. And I make researches with some products. So I shall emphasize a few points. First of all, is about communication. It's very, 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 very difficult to get some reliable facts, some reliable analysis, because the authorities have one aim, one purpose. Their purpose is not to be too destructive, not to be too hard, because of employment. Employment is a very big aim for them. It's something very important, and they will do everything they can, first of all, to get citizens happy, quiet, and to get them not to, excuse me, not to fear the consequences, especially health and environmental consequences. So it's very, 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 very difficult to get some reliable informations and some reliable analysis. both environmental analysis, the earth, the air, water supplies. I read all the results of water supplies made in Rockton. I read your summary, very, very instructive. And usually it's always good. For the authorities, there's nearly never problems. When something is a little too high, they say, oh, that's because of traffic, cars, because of old pollutants. That's before. This is an industrial plant. This is usual. This is okay. For them, it's nearly always everything is okay. In the fact, it's not always okay. So it's very difficult to find some independent analysis of the accident and moreover of the consequences of this accident. And we made a very long time some researches to find some scientists who seem to be really independent beside the official agencies, environmental agencies, and health agencies. That was our work, 18 months long. So if you have some questions, I will be very pleased to answer them, if I can.
So maybe, Elizabeth, I don't know if you can react with the people of Rockton. Did you get all the things that say Michel? And if you have some question to ask him, go ahead. And then we give the voice to the speech to Laura or Gerald. But Gerald Le Corre, we need a translation, okay? We will need, and Laura too. Laura, will you need a translator? Okay, just Gerald. But I'll let you ask questions with the people of Rockton. Michel is a very high-level specialist in our association with the other doctor we have. So go ahead.
Well, thank you. I just wanted to say thank you so much, Michel, for everything you said. I do believe that I understood it well as somebody that doesn't know, French at all. So I think think everybody probably understood what was said. If anyone does have any questions, there aren't too many people on the call that you couldn't just go ahead and unmute yourself. Or if you want to comment in the chat, I can ask you to unmute. But if you do want to ask a question of Michel, then go ahead and unmute yourself and ask.
I had a quick question. Thank you for taking the time to talk with us. What kind of issues did you have with your grounding, your vegetation as a result of your fire in France?
I think in the Rouen fire, the most consequences on the earth, on vegetables, things like that, are about HAP, benzoapyrene, HAP, benzoapyrene. These chemical products are always, sont toujours émis you always find them in big fires, in forest fires, as in chemical plants fires, HAP. That's a big problem. And it was especially seen in lichen. I'm sorry, I don't know the English word for lichen. That is...
It's lichen, or lichen.
Lichen.
Lichen, this is how we say it.
Very, very instructive because they concentrate for a long time the memory of the most chemical or most dangerous chemicals. And HAP is probably in Rouen the most important problem. Those molecules may cause cancer. They may cause some reproduction problems and mutagen, some mutations in genetics problem. That's because of that, we ask again and again and again for registers, regional registers in a newborn child when there are some problems, some anomalies, and cancer registers. We ask for them, but we don't succeed to obtain them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe we can give
Chantal, did you get what chemical? I was a little bit lost with the HAP.
I'm going to ask for what the pourriez-vous m'épeler le
H E like alpha, okay, and P like Peter.
D'accord.
It's an acronym. It's an acronym.
Polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbon.
Okay, so are you just saying like so David's got up the abbreviation that this is for hazardous air pollutant? Is that just so this is a generic term like hazardous air pollutant?
Yes, that's a family.
Well, there's a hydrocarbon in there.
The most important product is benzo A pyrene. Benzo.
Oui.
In French, B-E-N-Z-O.
Okay.
Pyrene, P-R-A-E-N-E. Benzo A pyrene is one of the big problems.
Okay, so great. Somebody did type that out in the chat. Benzoepirene. I'm not. And also referring to polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. We use the term volatile organic compounds. I'm thinking that maybe that's what our term here that we would tend to use. But yeah, see the chat for more clarification on that. I think that did help clarify it. So any more questions for Michel? Okay, then I think we could go on to our next speaker, Pierre, if you want to introduce our next speaker.
I will give the speech to Laura, first the lady, and after we will give the speech to the voice to Gerald.
Hi, hi everyone. Thank you for organizing this this session, this meeting. I think it's very, very important that we speak together. And I'm very happy that I'm able to participate and to represent the city of Rouen and also the ecologists, the Greens, in this discussion. So my name is Laura Slimani. I'm a deputy mayor of Rouen. I'm in charge of citizen participation and also gender equality, discriminations, etc. And yes, I'm here to give you a bit of an overview of what it's like, or at least what the experience of an elected representative is regarding this, and what also we're trying to do with our means, with our capacity to hold Lubrizol accountable, and to also, of course, try to ensure the safety of the citizens who live in the city, and also in the whole of the metropolitan area, right? Because there's the city of Rouen, but we also have a metropolitan area which is about 500,000 inhabitants, and of course the fumes went very, very widely, even wider than this, than the metropolitan area. So it's also a more global problem. The first thing I want to say is, of course, I share everything that was said by Michel and Pierre-Emmanuel earlier. The huge level of uncertainty, it was a reality for citizens, but it was also a reality for us as elected representatives, because maybe, I don't know if you know how the French administration is organized, but in industrial sites the state manages these sites, or at least decides what happens there, and is in charge of controlling security, safety measures, etc., in their respect. The cities have a very small role regarding the industries, except when they install, when they come in, then we have the right to say if they can move to our city or not. But Lubrizol has been there for a very long time, as have a lot of the Seveso sites, the very high-level risk sites, industrial sites in our city. This is a big problem, the fact that we don't have a lot of means as local elected representatives to hold Lubrizol accountable, even though we have the responsibility of keeping them safe, right? So we put in place measures, we put in place safety plans, evacuation plans, etc., etc. We have a lot of rules that we have to put in place in official documents. But the reality is, the best way to keep citizens safe is for industrial accidents not to happen, right? And on this part of the problem, which is the biggest one, we don't really have a lot of leverage. So there the leverage is more national. It's more about changing the law, but also more importantly, implementing the law, increasing the controls, the number of controls on industries to check whether they respect the law and the legislation. And indeed, Lubrizol is not a good student regarding this, especially at least in our city. I mean, Pierre-Emmanuel talked about what happened in 2013. Then we had, of course, what happened in September 2019. And, Lubrizol reopened 2 months later, only after the incident. In December, the representative of the state, of the national state in Rouen, the prefect decided to authorize the industry the factory to reopen. And probably 2 weeks later, they had a control from the control agency, the environmental agency, which is in charge of these health and safety rules. And they actually got fined for not respecting, again, two security measures that they should have. I mean, I'm not going into detail, but it's just showing that even 2 or 3 months after the accident, Lubrizol was not even respecting fully what they should do. So this is why we have a bit of we are lacking a lot of trust at the moment with this company. Of course, they say that they want to be good neighbors. They want to try and work with the population. They want to try and communicate better, to include citizens into their processes, etc., etc. But when it comes to the real stuff, it becomes more difficult. And one example of this is I don't know if you've seen, probably not, because it has 500 signatures approximately at the moment. But we've launched a petition a few days ago to call on Lubrizol to give. There's a big research program that is going on at the moment at the Rouen University to try and reproduce the fire in conditions as close to what happened as possible at the time. Because one of the problems that led to the big uncertainty that we have that we still have about what happened really and what was in the air is that we only knew what the products that were in the place that burnt. We only got the list 4 days ago, I think, 4 days later, approximately. And so, of course, 4 days later, we couldn't, I mean, what was in the air, what was the biggest intensity was right during the fire and right afterwards. So we couldn't really look for the molecules and for what we didn't know what to look for. So of course we didn't find anything. And this is what led the state to say, oh, well, there's not high toxicity in the air and, we don't see anything wrong. But of course we didn't know what we were looking for. So these researchers are trying to reproduce, now that we know the list, they're trying to reproduce the fire on a scientific way. And they've asked Lubrizol to give them, I'm sorry, I'm in a political festival, so I'm sorry if you hear clapping behind me, but they've asked Lubrizol to give them a small amounts of the products that were in the factory, the real stuff, the things that burnt. And Lubrizol at first said, oh, well, yes, we will be able to work together. But then a few months ago, they said, no, actually, we will never give you the products. It's not possible. So you will not have access to this. Because now it's a legal battle, So they've taken their sharks, they've put their lawyers, their big lawyers, in the front line, and they do not cooperate with us anymore. So, the bottom line is for us, we need more security checks, more regular than they are today. I mean, Lubrizol is not an insulated incident. There is a lot of every day, every year, there is an increasing number of industrial accidents on high-level danger sites. This is a fact every year. So we have a structural problem, which is that the sites are becoming older and older, and that they're not controlled enough, and so they're not held accountable, and so they, let some things slip. So we need to hold them more accountable. And then the other thing that we are trying to develop at our level is to create our own means of expertise, because we realized at the time that we didn't really know what risks we actually encounter, what risk we face on a daily basis as citizens of the city. We have of them, but not really precise. And we don't really have a precise notion either of what could happen if there was a pollution, what could happen if there was a fire, flooding, whatever happens. So we are trying to promote with other citizens, and including, of course, the citizens who are here, the creation of a citizen scientific institute, so that we can create our own, scientific-based studies and knowledge, and so that the knowledge is not only determined and possessed by the industry, but also by the citizens, because this is one of the ways that we can hold the industry accountable for what they do. So yeah, this is just a brief overview, but I don't want to speak too long. But yes, thank you very much for organizing this, and yes, I'm open to questions.
I have a question. I don't know if I know what happened in 2013.
Of course. So in 2013, there was a leak of a mercaptan, which is a gas that, I'm not a big specialist of it, but Pierre-Emmanuel, maybe you.
It's a gas that they use to signal when there is a leak. Okay, it's a gas that they use to alert if there is a problem. So it is very it's not a friendly gas to breathe. It gets you in the head. But I'm sure you are familiar now with some of the odor of the chemtools around the area. Maybe you feel that we experienced that odor that you are doing maybe in chemtools for 1 year, during 1 year. Not every time, but by paces. It means every month, every 2 weeks, we have strong odor coming, and it was very difficult to live. And of course, no apology, no sanction, no fine. The only fine they get in 2013, it was, imagine that, we talk about a company that makes 150 million benefits net margin every year, and they got only a fine of 4,000 euros. 4,000 euros, it's $4,000, just to have bothered in 2013 the 1/3 of Europe, almost. I exaggerate a little bit, but it is that only $4,000. It's amazing. And in 2019, for the accident of Lubrizol, the 26th September, we will see for the fine, but I think they will get not a lot. It is not possible to send in the air 10,000 tons of chemical product, very dangerous product, and not to be sanctioned. That is very not acceptable. Maybe Laura, if you want to say another thing, and you will give the speech, the voice to Gerald.
Oh, I think Gerald, vas-y.
Non, mais est-ce qu'éventuellement quelqu'un peut me résumer
Alors, pour
30
Gerald,
secondes, 1 minute?
Ok, Gerald. Elizabeth, if you can make, Gerald is going to say a few sentences, and then he is going to speak in French. Then he will need a translator to translate.
Okay, great. Chantal's ready.
Okay, thank you.
Et Gérald, tu voulais qu'on te fasse un petit résumé de ce qui s'était dit peut-être jusqu'à présent, non, c'est ça?
Voilà, pour pas redire la même chose.
Vas-y, Laura.
I'm just going to translate very quickly what we said for Gerald to know where we were at, and he can follow up on right after me. So it's just going to be a few sentences. Oui, donc en fait, on a juste présenté la manière dont les choses s'étaient passées à Rouen. Pierre-Emmanuel on a tous pointé du doigt la question du manque de transparence, de l'incertitude qu'on avait encore sur le plan des analyses, évidemment en matière de santé. Donc Michel a insisté sur ces aspects-là. Et puis donc moi j'ai parlé du fait qu'en tant qu'élu, on était un peu démunis, on avait des capacités assez limitées finalement de contrôle vis-à-vis de l'industriel, et même si on essayait de les tenir pour responsables, en tout cas de les tenir, on va dire, responsables de leurs actes, quoi, et qu'on travailler aussi à créer nos propres capacités d'expertise scientifique, citoyenne, dans le cadre en tout cas dans de notre mandat d'élu. Donc voilà un petit peu le résumé.
Ok. Bonjour à toutes et tous. Donc moi je suis Gerald Le Corre. De profession, je suis inspecteur du travail à Rouen. De ce que je comprends, parce que c'est l'équivalent de l'OSHA, Occupational Safety Health Administration.
He introduced himself, Gerald Le Corre, and he is a on-site occupational inspector and working for an agency similar to OSHA.
Peut-être c'est une particularité française ou européenne, mais en France, les inspecteurs du travail peuvent aussi être des syndicalistes, et je suis un des responsables de la CGT, et j'anime depuis, disons, une quinzaine d'années, notamment un réseau de militants syndicaux, notamment sur les questions de santé au travail, et notamment les accidents, bien sûr, mais aussi toute la partie, ce qu'on peut appeler la partie invisible, et notamment des salariés qui sont victimes de cancers liés à des expositions liées aux entreprises, notamment.
I also happen to be part of a union, the CGT, and for the last 15 years, and I work with a network within the union to look at health-related exposures, both in accidents, but also more invisible exposures that can lead to cancer.
Donc, je vais essayer d'aller à l'essentiel. Pour moi, le point le plus capital est le fait de s'organiser dès le début d'une catastrophe industrielle pour éviter les politiques de division entre les travailleurs, les organisations syndicales de travailleurs, d'un côté, qui ont extrêmement peur, et c'est logique, de voir les usines fermées, ont extrêmement peur de perdre leur emploi et qui, effectivement, souvent, ont tendance à être d'accord avec ce que racontent les directions d'entreprise.
So I think it's one point that's very important is to organize quickly the workers and union members to prevent politics from separating the affected groups who often are fearful of losing their job and thus will accept what is given by the industrial groups information.
Et nous avons, le terme est mal choisi, mais en tout cas, eu l'expérience extrêmement enrichissante de l'explosion sur le site AZF à Toulouse en 2001, il y a 20 ans, qui a fait plus de 30 morts et plus de 8000 blessés. Et on a bien observé qu'à l'époque, le groupe Total, qui était le propriétaire de l'usine, mais aussi les différents politiques, le maire de la ville comme le gouvernement, ont essayé justement de diviser entre les travailleurs.
Pardon.
Et malheureusement, l'expérience a montré qu'à Toulouse, pendant au moins 10 ans, les syndicats de travailleurs défendaient Total plutôt que de travailler avec les riverains pour obtenir la transparence et la vérité.
Je vais essayer j'espère que j'ai tout reçu là. So there was a lot of experience learned from an accident in Toulouse in 2001, in which there were 30 dead and many wounded. They learned a lot on developing transparency in information gathering, and they've really learned a process that they've learned a lot from themselves.
Et peut-être que la seule force que nous ayons réussi à mettre en place à Rouen dès le lendemain de l'incendie, c'est un collectif unitaire large qui regroupait des organisations qui ne travaillent pas souvent ensemble, donc les syndicats de travailleurs, mais aussi les deux associations de riverains, de victimes, ainsi que toutes les organisations de défense de l'environnement et ce qu'on peut appeler les partis politiques de la gauche.
So one strength from that and that came into Rouen is they immediately organized a lot of different players that had together, both workers, people who suffer the consequences of the accident, environmental people, political people who are all on the same page. They were able to gather and become a network that worked together.
Et notre histoire peut-être des luttes sociales ou des combats démocratiques en France nous avait aussi armés pour affronter cette situation dans le sens où nous étions convaincus dès les premiers jours que pour obtenir justice et transparence, il fallait pas seulement regrouper des forces de manière virtuelle, mais qu'il fallait que cela se traduise, peut-être c'est une particularité française, c'est possible, mais qui se traduise par un mouvement de masse et en particulier par des manifestations dans la rue afin de faire pression sur l'industriel Lubrizol, mais aussi sur l'État et les différents services de l'État qui avaient des informations à nous donner.
So I think there was also just in the tradition of social justice, they were also important that there be justice and grouping together for justice and transparency, not only in the virtual way, but also a social movement with protests pressuring not only the industrial company Lubrizol, but also the state and state agencies who had the information that the other people, the social movement wanted or needed.
Et un des points centraux est la question de l'information. On a été d'une certaine manière aidé donc par les propos du ministre de l'Intérieur qui tout de suite nous disait qu'il n'y avait aucun risque pour la population, mais dans 2 phrases plus loin en disant qu'ils attendaient les résultats d'analyse.
They were confronted initially when asking for information, they were confronted by ministers who reassured them that there was no risk, but they needed to wait for analysis or results.
Et donc, peut-être, effectivement, en termes de conseils, il faut en même temps avoir un regard critique sur les éléments qui peuvent être donnés, bien évidemment, par la direction de Lubrizol ou une autre entreprise qui aurait pu brûler. Mais il faut nous-mêmes, c'est ce que nous avons tenté de faire, mener notre propre enquête, on peut dire en complément des éventuelles enquêtes de l'administration ou des services de justice.
So their advice is to be somewhat skeptical of the information given from the industry. And what they're trying to do is a citizen corps to do their own separate independent analysis of the data.
Et nous savions que, et nous avons expliqué autour de nous, que sans rentrer dans une logique complotiste, nous ne pouvions pas avoir confiance dans la parole de l'État, puisque quelques mois avant, vous avez dû, je crois, entendre parler peut-être de l'incendie de la cathédrale Notre-Dame de Paris, où il y a eu 450 tonnes de plomb qui sont parties en fumée, mais où le gouvernement a dit qu'il n'y avait aucun risque avec le plomb, alors que c'est un produit cancérogène connu depuis très longtemps.
There was a lack of confidence in the government's analysis because a few months before in Notre-Dame, when it burned, there was a lot of lead that had burned with it, and they were reassured in a way that was not right.
Alors, très concrètement, pour mener notre propre enquête, pour récupérer des informations, nous savions que ce serait difficile pour les salariés de Lubrizol de nous donner des informations. Et donc, nous avons pris comme méthode plutôt d'aller chercher des discussions avec soit des entreprises de sous-traitance, gardiennage, nettoyage, maintenance, pour lequel il y avait moins de risques de parler, moins de risques de perdre leur emploi s'ils parlaient de la situation au sein de Lubrizol.
So they knew that people who worked directly for the company were more at risk and less able to share information. So they instead talked to subcontractors who work through the company, through various maintenance, about what was on site.
Et très concrètement, dans les premiers jours, j'ai passé aussi avec d'autres camarades une partie de mon temps le matin, le midi ou le soir un peu autour de l'usine, mais surtout dans les endroits où les ouvriers mangent le midi ou dorment le soir dans des hôtels pas chers. Et c'est plutôt dans les restaurants, dans les cafés ou dans les hôtels que les salariés on a pu gagner la confiance et ils ont pu nous donner des informations.
Je n'ai pas entendu juste la fin. Vous avez eu la confiance des ouvriers, c'est ça?
Oui, oui, en discutant, plutôt dans les cafés ou les restaurants ou à l'hôtel le soir quand ils avaient plus de temps.
So he and his friends would go morning, noon, night, just be available in the areas around where the workers would eat or sleep or stay in very inexpensive hotels, and eventually developed a camaraderie and a confidence for them to be able to share information.
On a évidemment sollicité tous les syndicats des différentes professions et on a eu discrètement des informations par le syndicat des pompiers, le syndicat des inspecteurs du travail, par le syndicat de plusieurs entreprises qui intervenaient soit avant l'incendie ou après l'incendie.
So with their connections with unions, they were able to gather help from people with different types of special expertise, whether it's through the firefighters union or occupational health type unions, to come and help share their expertise.
Et on a aussi demandé à tous nos syndiqués de savoir si dans leur entourage, les voisins, la famille, le frère du beau-frère, est-ce que quelqu'un éventuellement connaît des salariés de Lubrizol ou de Normandie Logistique? On a utilisé les liens familiaux, associatifs, clubs de foot, tout ce qu'on pouvait pour essayer d'aller chercher des informations.
They also put out the word within the union members if they knew anyone who worked within the plants, either through family, neighbors, various, soccer clubs and various things, to make contacts with people who worked within the plant.
On a recueilli des informations, mais avant de les diffuser publiquement sur la présence, par exemple, de toitures amiantées, sur les produits qui avaient brûlé, sur toute une série de choses, je ne rentre pas dans le détail, il nous fallait vérifier ces informations. Et donc, nous avons aussi travaillé avec quelques journalistes d'investigation et on a mis en place une sorte de méthode en disant qu'on pourrait faire sortir l'information publiquement à partir du moment où on avait 3 sources qui étaient d'accord sur ce qui s'était passé. Donc, des fois, nous avions un sous-traitant qui nous racontait un fait qui était confirmé par un autre salarié et éventuellement une autre source via un journaliste. Donc, on a échangé officieusement avec des journalistes et on s'est mis d'accord pour échanger nos informations avant de les sortir publiquement.
So the information obtained from these various sources, they wanted to verify them. So they always made sure that they had 3 sources and they worked with journalists, investigative journalists, to ensure that the information was corroborated before it was made public.
Nous avons bien évidemment travaillé avec des scientifiques en cherchant des scientifiques qui étaient indépendants de l'industrie chimique, il n'y en a pas beaucoup, et indépendants des institutions gouvernementales.
They also worked with different scientists, specifically those familiar with chemical engineers, who would be independent not only of the organization, the industry that they were evaluating, but also of political agencies as well.
Et ils nous ont donné des éléments techniques, notamment sur des polluants qui n'avaient pas été recherchés par les services de l'État, pour montrer que les instruments de mesure utilisés n'avaient pas un niveau de sensibilité, de détection sensible, et où, par exemple, on a mis en évidence l'insuffisance du suivi médical pour les pompiers, puisqu'on a démontré que les prélèvements sanguins et urinaires pour les pompiers étaient les mêmes que pour un simple feu de maison, sans rechercher, je ne sais pas si ça va être facile de traduire, sans rechercher les marqueurs biologiques qui démontraient effectivement une exposition particulière aux produits chimiques.
So the scientists gave them technical help on proving that the measurements being used by the government or the industry were not sensitive enough to pick up the things that needed to be measured. And they also found that the medical testing, the urine and blood testing after exposures, were insufficient. And they used firefighters who were exposed to fire and smoke as an example of obtaining the correct information. J'espère que j'ai bien traduit.
Un autre axe extrêmement important, puisqu'il n'y a eu ni mort, ni véritable blessé dans l'incendie de Lubrizol, a été d'expliquer à la population les risques ou les surrisques à effet différé, et notamment en termes de cancer.
So since the accident did not involve deaths or obviously wounded people, they needed to make sure that the population was still informed about other risks, especially future cancer risks.
Et cela va peut-être vous surprendre, mais nous nous sommes appuyés sur les résultats de l'enquête américaine sur le World Trade Center dans le cadre du programme de suivi de santé qui a mis en évidence un surrisque de cancer pour les sauveteurs ou tous ceux qui étaient présents dans les jours, les semaines et les mois qui suivent autour du World Trade Center, pour expliquer que il y avait des incohérences. Vas-y.
So they leaned on the research done for frontline workers at the World Trade Center who suffered health risks later to impress upon the population that there can be risks with these exposures.
Puisque l'étude américaine a démontré un risque je crois, de mémoire, je n'ai pas relu, mais je crois que c'était 14 000 cas de cancer, alors qu'on était sur un énorme, des doubles tours avec du béton, avec effectivement quelques produits chimiques, mais en France, on nous disait qu'une usine chimique qui brûle ne comportait aucun risque pour la population. Et donc nous avons quand même, me semble-t-il, réussi à convaincre une partie de la population qu'à long terme, effectivement, nous avons respiré bien évidemment des produits qui étaient cancérogènes avec des risques à long terme.
So they were able to convince the population in order to to get their buy-in to kind of demand more information by the basis that the American study on the World Trade Center frontline workers showed an increased risk of cancer, yet all they had really been exposed to was concrete, nothing really as chemical as what their exposure was.
Et pour finir, bien évidemment, nous avons, depuis les premiers jours, des contacts entre nous, mais aussi avec les avocats spécialisés de nos organisations syndicales de défense de l'environnement. Donc, on peut obtenir des choses par la voie juridique, mais pour le moment, le bilan qu'on peut tirer, ce qui nous a permis un minimum de transparence, par exemple, la liste incomplète des 9000 tonnes de produits qui ont brûlé, ce qui n'était pas prévu par la réglementation française, ce qui nous a permis d'obtenir la publication des résultats d'analyse sur le site des autorités françaises. Ce n'est pas la bagarre judiciaire avec les avocats, c'est le fait d'avoir choisi d'être dans la rue, en manifestation, et donc de montrer qu'il y a une construction d'un rapport de force avec des citoyens qui se mobilisent dans la rue, qui sont visibles de la population et visibles de la presse. Il me semble que c'est un point, ne lisant pas l'anglais, je ne sais pas ce qui se passe à Rockton, et donc je finirai donc à cette question. Est-ce que effectivement il y a ou pas des manifestations pour obtenir vérité, justice ou transparence? C'est pour nous le point, je crois, le plus fondamental. On le fait avec le juridique, c'est lié avec le juridique, mais s'il n'y a pas une mobilisation des citoyens, il nous semble que ça rendrait notre combat bien plus difficile. Et j'arrête là.
So to summarize, one of the things he wants to impress is that although that there were some legal battles to try and obtain the information that they were not by regulation obligated to provide. For example, the list of chemicals that burned, there was no legislation that that compelled them to release that information. So they had to fight for those lists through the legal system, but it also public pressure through protests and through the help of journalism to continue to put the pressure to get that information out. He feels that public pressure is crucial to really get the justice. That's a crucial part of their efforts.
Merci, merci Gérald. I don't know, enfin, je ne sais pas si parmi nos amis français de Rouen, il y a d'autres personnes qui veulent intervenir.
Ouais, moi je veux bien, Robin.
Robin, ok. Alors vas-y, je te laisse parler. Est-ce que tu as besoin d'un traducteur ou pas?
Normalement, non.
Ok, alors je te laisse.
Okay. Hi everybody, I'm Robin. I'm the secretary of Association des Sinistrés de Lubrizol. This is a citizen association. We built it quickly after the accident. And our first aim is to have a truth and condemnation of the industrial of Lubrizol because of what he did. So for us, there is no, we are sure we are going to have some trouble in few time, maybe 5, 10 or 20 years, but we are sure because of Lubrizol fire. We will have some concerts, things like this, more than the other area. And we fight to know the truth and to have the transparency. Our first fight will be with to build to build connection with people, to be stronger, because where we are together, we are stronger. And but we stay citizen organization. We are also only citizen organization. We have some connection with Gerald, with the laborers, and with the other citizen organization. We have some connection with politicians too, as Laura Slimani. But our first fight will be to know what burn, in fact, what kind of chemicals had burned. And we fight a lot to have the products, the list of the chemical. But it's very difficult with Lubrizol and with our government to have the full chemical. So we have only maybe 40% of the chemical we know, but we don't know what other chemical burn. So we try to fight to have the full list of chemical, and we had the support of politicians like Laura Slimani told you. They send a petition, and we hope a lot of people who can sign it. The big fight we have too is a judicial fight, because we are the only one organization who put Lubrizol in criminal court. So this is our second fight, is judicial fight. And we have a little, as we can see, and we could see in the discussion in Facebook page, we won. We had a little victory about this fight is we won because Lubrizol doesn't want this trial, so they try to cancel it. But in fact, the decision of the court is to continue the trial with Lubrizol. So Lubrizol is we try to condemn Lubrizol because of environmental how can I say? So please help me. I want to say le terme exact qu'on a utilisé pour la condamnation, c'est atteinte à l'environnement, atteinte grave à l'environnement, atteinte grave, comment on dit ça en anglais?
La pollution, tu dis the pollution.
Ouais, okay, because of the environmental pollution. Okay, so this is the trial we have with Lubrizol at the moment, but we continue to fight about chemicals, and with the scientists of the Rouen University, we are going to make some experiences. But we need to have the full chemical headburn to know what's happened really, and to know what we have to expect in the future about sickness, about you know. So it's very important for us to have these products and the full composition of the products. And the other thing I want to say is it's very important to be together and to I don't know, it's work really in States, because the thing we don't have, just you have, is at the beginning Lubrizol and government doesn't want to take any doesn't want to make any study about what's burned, and they don't want to make anything about it. They say it's just like a house, you know. So they don't want to make any scientists study on the fire. So we fight for it, and we had a result of a study they made, but only with the products they search. So we know they don't search a good one, or they miss to search them. So, but even with this study, we saw that during the fire and some few days after, in some part of our place, we have 20 times more benzoapyrene or something like this, so 20 times more than usual. and it corresponds to 4 times more than the dangerous level of this kind of chemical in the air. So we have big problem about it because they discover chemicals more than usual, very more than usual, but they say nothing happened, there's no danger for you, nothing happened. So the problem is here, we can't believe our politicians, especially at the prefecture, so the government, because they give us bad vision of what happened. It's a big problem we have here, because as Gerald or Laura explained you, here industry is very important for employment. We have a long history of industrial history here, more than 200 years. So it's why it's very difficult when you try to fight industry or to find issue, to find to try to ameliorate the situation with industrial is always difficult because everybody fears for the employment. But we think we can do in another way. And our first aim is to have the truth and to condemn Lubrizol. The most important for us is not how much they are going to pay, but how much they can help whole the population around industrial sites to change the legislation and to make the legislation more harder for about security for this kind of industry, and to make a citizen organization which we can talk and with industrial and alert population about what the industrial do. I don't know if you understand me well because I'm English, but it's like of most of French people, we are speaking like this. So just 2 things to finish. The first fight is to find the truth for the population, have the good information about the product, the chemical at burn, to make experiences and to have a view about our future, our Earth's future, mainly. So thank you very much.
Merci, merci Robin. Maybe if there are some questions, I just want to emphasize one thing, is that in Rouen, we just were close of a major catastrophe. It means the loss of the city itself, because there are so many dangerous sites around Lubrizol, such as Borealis, such as Sepal, that if the incendiary went too far, it would have create a chain reaction. And then it would have exploded like in Beirut. I don't know if you've seen that in Beirut, if you remember that in Beirut, in Lebanon. So the city would have been just blown away, because the site of Lubrizol is just maybe 1 mile from the Cathedral of Rouen, the very center of the city. So we are just very close from a major catastrophe here, the 26th September. It is not acceptable then 2 years later that the same thing happened in Rockton. That's just unbelievable. And there's one thing we would know from Rouen, is if you have an ID, what was inside the Chemtools precise ID, what was inside the Chemtools factory, to see if it is exactly the same as in Lubrizol. And Michel will point that, I will try to say that correctly, but there is, you know, the pentasulfur, I don't know the rest. Maybe Gerald, you can say the rest of it, you know, that that product that is very dangerous. Pentasulfur of potassium, I think it is. Michel, can you explain that?
Yes, I can try to explain that. One of the units in the plant of Rouen uses a chemical product named phosphore pentasulfure. Pentasulfure de phosphore in French. Phosphore pentasulfure. This product is highly dangerous. Why? Because if you add water to it, it will generate huge quantities of H2S, H2S, hydrogène sulfuré. Maybe you can translate hydrogène sulfuré.
The phosphorus benzosulfate, that was a very dangerous, a very toxic chemical. If you add water to it, it will release, it sounds like hydrogen sulfate.
Yes, that's it. And this can burst, not only burn, but burst, just like in Beirut, Lebanon. This is a huge danger, because Lubrizol owns up to 60 tons of this product. And it can use up to 200 tons of this product in the factory. This is a huge, enormous quantity of a very, very, very dangerous product. And as a matter of fact, it is impossible to get this introduced in the studies of danger. For some mysterious reasons, it is impossible to convince the authorities to study the problem. They don't even want to study the problem of hydrolysis, water added. If the ceiling is in bad state, if it rains a lot, if there's a flood from the river, this is a big problem. For some mysterious reasons, it is impossible to get this involved in the prevention studies.
Thank you, Michel. I would add also, because there was a question to know if it was safe to eat vegetables in the area of Rouen. Of course, if you hear the prefect and the national organizations that say it was quite safe, nothing happened, you just need to wash. Personally, on my rooftop, I had strawberries, different kind of little vegetables. I didn't keep them. I just throw it away because I didn't want to take any chance, because I was very close from the site. Also, we talk about the things we know, because me as a citizen, I remember the director, which is a lady in Rouen, of ATMO, which is the EPA for you. She told me, well, just after the accident, first, she didn't have the tool to seek the industrial product. She just concerned about the gas of the cars, you know, the automobile, the traffic of the automobile. She studied only that kind of problem, not the industrial problems, because maybe if they found some pollution, historical pollution, like they said, maybe that cause cancer, maybe that's a problem, is they don't want to talk about it. So it's more to be blind and to keep going on. So after a while, she make, of course, because she's a right citizen, no question about that, but she didn't have the proper tools. She said that. Then she went to do everything she can with canisters, but it was a few hours away from the accident to seek any sign of pollution. So we don't have a clear information from the right area, just to close the area, just when it was the real accident. We didn't have a lot of information for that, and that's a very dommage. Then she told us, we know we can find only what we know. We can find only what we know. So it means when you don't know, like say, Robin, what was inside that factory, because the fire workers, when they arrived at the site, they didn't know what kind of data, what kind of product was stocked. A few, but not all of them. So they had to wait to get the information, to know if they could use the water or use another technique to stop the fire. Also, there was a lack of water. The sprinkler waters of Lubrizol, lacking Rockton, was not working properly. The mass of water needed to stop such a fire was not there. It should have been there, but it was not there. Again, you have inspector, they do their job, but you have that kind of trouble. It is not acceptable, and it is still the reality in our industrial countries. The inspection of those sites are not clearly not independent, because what say Michel, it is the truth, because it is a business, it is a resource of employment, so it is difficult to cope them and to make them accountable, like you said, for what they do. But we as a citizen, we should unite, share information, and ask them for to pay for what they did. So for the vegetables, my point of view, if we are really close from the accident, I will not advise to keep it or to eat it. That's my point of view, but I will let Michel or Gerald react on that. Michel, vas-y, si tu veux dire quelque chose pour...
Yes, I agree. That's more safety not to eat vegetables. For instance, I had apples on my trees, but I didn't eat, of course. But for some distance, when it is washed, I think maybe that's not so possibly harmful. One point I should like to emphasize is there's a lack of a professional survey for the workers of a plant and for the fire brigades. Why do I say that? They got, of course, blood analysis, but standard ones. I mean, liver, kidney functions, things are very average, but not. They didn't get specific biological analysis, and that's really a shame. But why do I say it's a shame? Because the authorities, they knew very, very fast, end of 2019, what major risk there was. HAP, PCB, dioxin a little, not much in Rouen, but HAP, PCB, they should have had specific analysis, biological analysis. And this we asked and asked again, but we never got them. And for me, due to my job, this is a shame.
Thank you, Michel. Gerald, if you want to say a few words because you missed maybe something to say, and if you have your point of view for the vegetables, you know, if it is safe to eat them or not. Gérald, il faut que tu actives ton micro.
Désolé. Je ne sais pas si, Gabriel me dit tout de suite, si vous avez parlé de la question de ce qu'on appelle les polyexpositions, de l'effet cocktail ou pas.
Non, non, j'ai juste parlé un petit peu pour savoir, pour trouver les produits, parce que ce qu'on a trouvé, ce qu'on a recherché, c'est sûr, hein, s'il n'y a pas les produits dangereux dans la liste de ce qu'il faut rechercher ou dans ceux qu'on ne connaît pas, comme tu viens de l'indiquer, ben, on ne les trouvera pas. Donc ça, tu peux appuyer là-dessus, oui.
J'essaie de suivre la discussion et je voulais rajouter un élément sur les risques pour la santé dans ce qu'on appelle la polyexposition, c'est-à-dire le fait d'être exposé à plusieurs produits dont la connaissance scientifique toxicologique ne permet pas d'écarter à ce jour ce qu'on peut appeler le risque d'effet cocktail.
Okay, if you can translate, if you can.
One thing he wanted to add to the health risks to think about is the exposure of multiple chemicals at once, for which the scientific information on the results of this exposure is unknown. And especially when there's chemicals they don't even know they don't know were part of the mix.
Yes.
Et les analyses qui ont été rendues publiques sur le site de la préfecture, des autorités françaises, ont démontré la présence de multiples produits dangereux, dont les hydrocarbures aromatiques polycycliques, le plomb, des furanes, de l'amiante, des dioxines et du benzène. Quand les résultats ont été présentés, les autorités françaises ont indiqué que pour chacun de ces produits pris isolément, les résultats étaient en dessous, j'expliquerai après, des valeurs limites.
Oui, si vous pouvez traduire, if you can translate, I'm sorry.
So the analysis that were made public by the governmental agencies who looked at the toxic substances, they indeed confirmed that there were things by hydrocarbons, lead, dioxins, benzenes. There's a few more in there that I didn't catch, but the agency presented the information not in the collective risk analysis, but that each isolated chemical was under the levels of acceptable risk, rather than looking at the global package of what was the exposure.
Ces valeurs limites sont réglementaires ou indicatives, mais elles ne comprennent jamais les effets combinés d'exposition simultanée ou dans la durée à plusieurs produits.
So the regulations in regards to health risks are for each individual chemical, but there's no recognition that the risk may be different when the chemicals are combined in the exposure.
Et plusieurs études, notamment qui portent cette fois sur la question de l'alimentation, ont démontré l'existence réelle de cet effet cocktail, même si les valeurs limites sont respectées.
So in regards to food exposure, there are studies that shows that there is a measurable risk in this cocktail of chemicals that would not be apparent when you only measure one chemical at a time.
D'ailleurs, le gouvernement et les autorités françaises font énormément de campagnes, de publicité culpabilisantes, mais pour dire dans la population que si on fume un peu, si on boit un peu d'alcool et si on mange de la nourriture grasse, il y a un risque multiplicateur d'un certain nombre de maladies pour l'être humain.
The same government agencies, however, go through a lot of public education to outline the risks of alcohol, diet, and smoking, and they do recognize the accumulative risk in this effort for the public.
Yes, I think, Gerald, I think we can stress on that is that most of the things we talk about is in the industrial world, the level acceptance of the level. But if it was for food or human food, there would be no level possible. You imagine when you use some goods, if you find some those chemical notions, that would be not acceptable to eat it. And it's very a great comparison that took Gerald to say the message that we have on TV on regular basis to say don't smoke, it's very dangerous, don't eat certain food, etc., or don't drink, and to accept the level of exposure that we have with those chemical plants.
Et quand nous posons la question des effets combinés, de l'amiante, un peu d'amiante, un peu de plomb, un peu de benzène, le gouvernement est en difficulté et ils ont même refusé une revendication qui était extrêmement démocratique de notre part, c'est-à-dire une rencontre publique entre nos experts citoyens et les experts du gouvernement et des agences gouvernementales afin de discuter sur la question de ces effets cocktails. D'ailleurs, je te laisse traduire et je finis après en une phrase.
So they have asked the government agencies to have their experts discuss the citizen experts to try and review data and try to learn about what the combination of these chemical exposures would do, but the government has refused to cooperate with them to learn that information.
Et nous avons demandé depuis les jours qui ont suivi l'incendie d'obtenir la mise en place d'un registre de santé, notamment pour répertorier d'une part tous les types de cancers, d'autre part toutes les malformations à la naissance, afin que dans les années futures, les chercheurs, sur cette base de données, puissent établir ou non un lien éventuel entre ces futurs cancers ou malformations avec l'incendie de Lubrizol.
They had asked for days after the fire or after the incident in Rouen to develop a health registry so that they could track over time cancers, congenital defects, and other things to be able to study if there may be any link between exposures and changes in rates in those illnesses.
Et le ministère de la Santé refuse à ce jour de mettre en place ces registres d'information sur ces pathologies, malgré le fait que nous ayons obtenu du Sénat, d'une des chambres parlementaires, qui recommandait dans son rapport la mise en place de ces registres. Et donc, pour nous, les autorités françaises organisent ce que l'on peut appeler l'invisibilité des futures pathologies qui peuvent ou pas, on ne saura, je crois, jamais, être liées à Lubrizol.
Est-ce que je peux demander, parce que est-ce que vous avez développé vous-même un enregistrement?
No, no, mais what we could say is that in the French system, we have a medical database, okay, regularly, and we have also a special register, but it is not all around the states of France. It is in a special area, and you have to ask the state to open up and create such a register. And it is very important to have such a register because it is the way medical people can follow and seek and see if there is a problem of a cluster of cancer in a specific area or malformation for the newborn, if they have a hand missing, a finger missing, stuff like that. You need to go through, that's what say Gerald, through that creation of a register. Okay, sorry.
Je peux ajouter, Pierre-Emmanuel?
Yeah, go ahead.
Please, I will ask for a translation if possible.
D'accord.
Thank you. Je travaille depuis 1 an avec l'Agence nationale Santé publique France, dans un groupe. Et nous avons appris que l'État français, a ouvert une candidature pour le 8e registre régional des malformations congénitales sur l'ensemble de la France.
Je vais essayer de traduire déjà. So, Monsieur
Michel
was going, for 1 year, has been working with a group on public health in France, and they have learned that there has been a new regional opening from the health minister, regarding a monitoring for congenital malformations and tracking those.
Tout à fait. Et le centre hospitalier principal de notre région a constitué un énorme dossier de candidature. Donc, notre région est candidate pour ce 8e registre, car nous avons énormément d'usines Céveso, d'usines dangereuses chimiques dans notre environnement urbain et périurbain.
So their local regional hospital system has applied to become the next regional center, given the quantity of chemical exposure in the area, to be able to track health outcomes.
Exactly. Mais nous sommes pessimistes. Nous sommes pessimistes parce que la réponse devait être donnée il y a déjà 6 mois. Nous demandons la réponse du ministère de la Santé. On nous dit qu'on nous la donnera, mais elle ne vient jamais.
He's somewhat pessimistic, though, because the choice should have been made 6 months ago, And to this day, there still is no decision or response in regards to this open position.
Just to be precise on that matter, we have what we call, please not to laugh about it, a committee of transparency with the states, but it is not transparent. But it is a transparency committee, and we participate. So it is like a round. We have 10. We have already had 9 meetings, and we discuss about that the consequence of that accident, so Lubrizol accident, and the head director, which is a lady, had the information. Because we had that meeting a few days ago, they know who is going to have this register, but they didn't say, because they say they could not say. And they will say, they are going to tell us in a few weeks, so during the summer. So it is quite reasonable to be very pessimistic for Normandy to host that future register. Maybe it sounds amazing for you, but in France, it is how it works. You have a national system, and to study special case such as cancer, such as malformations for the newborn, you need to open up that kind of a register. Some area of France have already those register since 30, 40 years ago. Normandy has between Rouen, Le Havre, these 2 cities, major plants, chemical plants, more than 52 plants of very high risk, high level risk. We have more than 10% cancer level than the national level of cancer. So we have by any right to have those 2 registers, first for the newborn and also for the cancer. But it should be on all the territory of France, those registers, not only in the Alps or in Normandy or in Paris. It should be for all the country. So this is one of our goals to obtain that for sure.
Yes, I just want to say something about what you said before. So with all of that, you see that it's very difficult to fight big factory or big company like Lubrizol, because you have so many issues with this kind of industry. So the thing is, if you want if you want the truth, if you want to be compensated, if you want to know what's happened, you have to fight quickly, especially with the samples you can collect by yourself. And I don't know how it works in States, but for us, we are going as citizen. So this is citizen. We are going to make the scientific constatation about the pollution, because our national agencies or regional agency doesn't do the job. So as said Gerald, it will be difficult to know really what's burned and what we can expect for our health. But the thing is, the fight will be long with the judicial way, with the trio, but also to know the truth with the government and with Lubrizol too. So it's a long fight, difficult fight. And what I want to say to Rockton people is you have to be patient, but it's possible to fight against them. We don't have to give up. And I think we could do something together because it will be interesting to work together to show to Lubrizol that we can make some international organization or international communication about what's happened and how we can help ourselves, Rockton and Rouen too. So we have to be all together, and we are open to help you when you want. And like today for the first contact.
In fact, we should create that twinning committee of the victim of Lubrizol, because we know Rockton, we know Rouen, but I'm sure there are a few other cities that hold a factory of Lubrizol that has also big concern about the way they do as they manage security. Also, what you should do, because you are very close in Rockton from the catastrophe, is to have biomarkers. If you can keep biomarkers such as blood tests, to keep it in fridge, but with a lab, a special lab, of course, or air, what we call biomarkers, because in France, they didn't want to have biomarkers. We did ask immediately, the day of the accident, the hour after the accident, we did ask to take such biomarkers. There was an accident in 1976, and Michel is going to correct me if I am wrong, in Seveso. Seveso, it's a city in Italy. And they did that, what it happens. That's why we call those factories, when they are very dangerous, they have the name of Seveso site, because they can cause those major problems. So in 1976, the city of Seveso, long time ago, to prevent cancer or other health problem, to seek the truth about what happened and to protect their population, they did use biomarkers. They did keep samples, and 10 years after that, they were able to find and to make the reality about the effect of that accident. In Lubrizol, the 26th September, they don't want to hear about it. Only a few fire workers did have such tests, but Michel said already that they didn't take it and seek the right, the right product, the right chemical product. So it's not enough. So we asked for a protocol, a national protocol, and it is on its way. It's going to be against a long fact, but we obtain the idea of a national protocol when such accidents happen. So with biomarkers and a long study in time to see if there are problems coming up. Because the major things that we are facing, we victims in Rouen and in Rockton, is to say and to demonstrate the before, the now, and the after. If you don't have a strategy to make a permanent study, you cannot see the things. What was very important in Rouen, there is a branch of the river very close from the factory of Lubrizol. It's called Le Bassin au Bois. Okay, it's a small branch of river, and it did have all the product of Lubrizol because of the fire and the water used during to fight the incident. We could, because this part of the river was analyzed during 10 years or 15 years. So we had before, during the catastrophe, and after that. And this is this way, only by this way, that we could find the real signature of the accident. And we should do the same thing with the human, because in France, they want to study the human health with the environmental study, in the water, on the spinach, on the carrots, etc. But this is not serious. This is not the same. So this is the fight we are trying to win. I think with the help of the politicians, we're going to change the legislation, hopefully. Elisabeth, I give you back the speech.
Okay, so thank you, everyone. So that wrapped up all the folks from France who were making statements, correct? We're going to be speaking. Okay, wonderful. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining. Is there anyone? We are it was an hour meeting and then we're now pushing 2 hours. So I do want to be mindful of everyone's time. But I also do want to give anyone who hasn't spoken an opportunity to share anything, whether you're from France or from Rockton. So I believe that David would like to say something. Go ahead, David.
I have a question that
We can't hear you very well. We need to.
That's better or no?
A little bit better. Push the level.
Yeah, your mic sounds. We can just barely hear you.
Pump up the volume.
It's better. I'll get closer. The scale of our event, our incendiary here, we're starting to get information that there could have been as much as 14 million liters of explosive on site. And I see Pierre Emmanuel, your eyebrows going up at this number. Can you put us in some scale vis-a-vis your experience? And also you referenced Beirut. I'm only beginning to get my mind around the scale of the event here. Perhaps there's someone who could calculate the megatons involved in this. This was the chemicals and the explosives that were on site. The other thing I wanted very much to do before we run out of time was to present the people of Rouen with this key made from the ashes that landed on my house 10 miles from the explosion. This key is a gift from our sister city here to the people of Rouen, and for your courage and for walking ahead of us and for inviting us to be brave in our path.
Thank you, David. So if I can answer shortly to some of your questions. For the stocks that went to the air in Rouen, we know we talk about 9,000 tons of at least of chemical products. I think this is, as far as we know, this is the correct number. Maybe Michel and Gerald could add, and I'm going to tell them in French. Gérald et Michel, est-ce que au niveau des quantités qui ont de l'incendie de Rouen, de la catastrophe de Rouen, nous avons le chiffre de 9000 tonnes de produits qui est allé dans les airs. Est-ce que vous avez, vous, d'autres informations? Parce que, par exemple, David nous a dit qu'il y avait pratiquement plus de 400 millions de litres, si j'ai bien compris, de produits explosifs à Rockton.
Ce qui a brûlé, c'est 9500 tonnes de produits finis auxquels il faut rajouter des éléments de structure, notamment le plastique des bacs, mais aussi les structures qui ont brûlé et notamment les toitures amiantées dont on a une appréciation du nombre de mètres carrés, mais même ça, c'est une information assez inexacte, alors que les relevés devraient permettre de savoir exactement le nombre de pourcentage des toitures amiantées qui ont brûlé.
Il y avait 8000 mètres carrés de toiture, c'est ça?
Oui, mais tout n'a pas brûlé. Donc,
okay.
Pas
just for English audience, Gerald just pointed out that we know that 9,500 tons did burnt of stock or chemical product. You need to add, so somebody asked the question about if the full factory did burn. No. It's, I think, maybe Michel, you can correct me live. It was 1/3, I think 1/4, 1/4 or 1/3 of the factory that did burn, but that was enough, really enough. And also we had to add, though the structure of the factory that did burn, which was large, a large part of the factory that need to be added. Also, the asbestos, I don't know if I say asbestos roof, because they did stock, and they should not have to stock those products above those roof with asbestos. And we talk about maybe 4,000 square meters that went at least into the air. Of course, nothing was measured in the area. We found parts of it, David, not only a few yards from the factory, but even to 20 kilometers, maybe far away from that site. In fact, to explain you, there were major destruction on the site, a few dust and strong odor around the site that was there for a year, by pace, but for a year, 1 year, 12 months, different period of time, where you have 2 weeks or 1 week or 2 days of strong odor. When I mean strong odor, it stinks. It burns your lungs. It's very difficult to breathe, and you just want to escape. You cannot work. Just after the catastrophe, I have to spend 2 weeks outside of my flat because it was not safe for us, for the odor, because of the dust that was inside the flat, etc. It was not safe to stay there. So we were out of the city for 2 weeks at least. So that's what we faced in Rouen. But much longer from Rouen, in the Pays de Bray, it means it is agriculture site, 20 kilometers, 30 kilometers from here. The dust was very heavy, and with the rain, they all goes down on the roof, on the car, on the buildings. So it was, when you should see the pictures, it was two very, very strong dust, maybe a few centimeters. So you see, just for you to imagine the scale that did concern our area, our region. And we have to the other city of Lubrizol. They did even fight during the justice. They could have said, okay, we are responsible. We didn't start the fire, but we are responsible. We apologize. We're going to repair. We acknowledge that we have created a major pollution, and we're going to repair it. No, what they did is to minimize, to say, well, it was just a campfire, really. You could work, no problem at all. And they went to a little farmer to say, okay, we give you a penny and you stop to fight us, okay? It's almost that, and you know that strategy. And then they went to trial to contest they did polluted the site. Oh, not that they did not polluted, that the state did not do the job, the right job, so they have to lost the charge because it was not their fault. No, it's not. You see, yeah, this is the way how they do the job here in France, and we are with you to be together and to fight them and to make them accountable for what they did here in Rouen and you in Rockton.
There's also another problem. That's after the fire. After the fire, you have to clean all the plant, to clean the area, to destroy what's broken and evacuate everything. And this is very difficult because it gets some more smells, that means some more pollutants, and probably some asbestos too, a lot of asbestos, months ago, for the works of cleaning the site, cleaning the plant. Please be extremely clever about the condition of cleaning the site, cleaning the plant. This will be months long, months, and this will add some supplementary, some additive pollutions in your surroundings, in your areas. And this is not studied. This is, as usual, no problem. But this created a lot of problems, months long, in Rouen and all the region.
Well, thank you, Elizabeth. I think we have to set a date. It's September, before the 26th September, the 3rd anniversary for us here in Rouen. And I think we're going to talk with Laura Slimani and at the Metropole and also the Metropole of Rouen to set something between the people of Rockton and the people of Rouen, and to have more exchange, more organized exchange with, and we thank your translation that we did create. Very thankful to her. We hope that you did understand us in our poor English. We tried our best. And you are all welcome here in Normandy whenever you want, because beside of that, it's a great city, and you, as you have seen, with great people. Personally, I want to thank to Gerald, Laura, and Robin, and of course Michel, but I've seen Nathalie also, Ivano, and all those people that I didn't see the name. And I will let you, Elizabeth, finish that meeting. And we hope to see you all together in a next meeting, and to construct something, and to fight, and to make it Lubrizol accountable, because they need to. And it is for their good, in fact, because then they will make more benefit and less accidents, hopefully.
Right. Yeah. Thank you, Pierre. Thank you to everyone who joined this call. I really feel like it was very, profoundly meaningful to connect with you all and share our common experience. So yeah, we will definitely get together again before your 3rd anniversary on September 26th. I'm very much looking forward to that. Thank you to Chantal for translating for us. We really appreciate that. And thank you to everybody for everything that you said. This was really a wonderful time, and I look forward to doing it again. This is being recorded, so you can go back and watch again. And as long as I don't mess it up, I think the Facebook Live will stay recorded on Facebook. So yeah, you can share that amongst your friends, and or get with anything that if you want to listen again for anything that you missed or wanted to clarify. But I hope you guys all have a good Saturday evening there in Rouen, and we will, everybody here in the US, I hope you enjoy the rest of your Saturday. So thank you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
See you.
See you soon.
Yeah, soon.
Bye-bye.